Welcome to Still Plays Galaxy of Heroes. We are back with a talk video, and today CG has given us two big character releases, and today we tackle the more timely of the two, Mand'alor Bo. Darth Bane we're going to approach at a later point. We have a little bit more flexibility with Conquest characters. I haven't exactly decided when I want to do so. Last time with Dark Trooper Moff Gideon, we experimented with releasing it closer to the character release in-game, or the activation of that character in-game, and I didn't get a lot of feedback on that video, so I have no idea if that worked or not. I'm guessing no. I don't think the engagement was really there, even though the views were. I think we're going to try and find a sweet spot, maybe the second Conquest, maybe I'll do it next week, but just kind of let me know in the comments what you guys are feeling out, and then I'll work towards that. Now, with Mand'alor Bo, we're going to do the kit reveal, take a look at the developer insights, and then do our breakdown and analysis as we typically do. With Bo Katan Mandalore, we still have the big problem of what to call her. I haven't heard anything that I like yet. I'm just going to call her Bo for this video to keep things simple, and I'll say Old Bo Katan if I need to bring it up. Now, with her in game, she apparently has no alignment. She's not a leader, not an attacker, with support or anything, because CG didn't say any of that. She does have a leadership ability, but I'm kind of surprised at just this level. The graphic says nothing. Alignment here says nothing. Weird call. I mean, obviously she's a leader in game. She's probably an attacker, but for CG to just not do this, you kind of just see the shrinking level of information they put here. I mean, Darth Bane has this information. I don't know why it's not here. Now, attributes. What CG gives us is massive true damage, and this kind of undersells it. Everything in this kit is true damage. That's going to be important. Call Lightside Mandalore allies twice, and Ancestral Resolve is going to strengthen Lightside Mando allies defense, but it does more than that. In the tips portion, they do say that Bam should go before her, that she should be slower than Beskar Mando. That doesn't necessarily mean that she should be slow, though. It just means that we are going to need to manipulate turn order and pay attention to that. And then the other aspect here within tips is counters debuff heavy teams. That's going to feed into Ancestral Resolve. And now we get into the meat of things here with our kit breakdown analysis. We're just going to simplify some of this stuff where we can't, just make it a little bit easier to understand what is going on. Now, the basic ability, Frontal Assault. Deal unevadable, physical, and true damage to the target and dispel buffs. During Bo's turn, all Lightside Mandalorian allies gain speed up. So any dispel on basic is super powerful. I would guess that most of us would struggle to get into the specific functions of most of the basic abilities, but every one of us could list out the characters who can dispel on basic. And I think that alone illustrates how valuable a basic ability like this is. And then when you make it unevadable on top of that, and you start seeing the pieces of a very strong start to this kit. The first special ability, Darksaber Flourish. This is a Zeta ability with a cooldown of 3. Physical damage to the target and inflict armor shred. Deal an additional instance of true damage, which is unavailable, and inflict stun on the target. Then if Bo is debuffed, deal true damage and additional time to the target, which is unavailable. Otherwise, reduce the cooldown of this ability. So we get a little bit of control with stun, and we weaken our opponents with the armor shred. Both always valuable. And then we're seeing a pattern here of multiple instances of true damage, which is an unevadable attack, which is going to become very valuable, in particular against some of the enemies that we do see paired with GLs, which tends to be those characters with the stacking mastery effects that GL brings that have the evasion mastery, like JTR, who can become very problematic. So we're going to see Bo Katan to be particularly effective against some of those characters because they're no longer going to be able to evade. And with the debuff mechanic, what we find is if Bo is a little bit slower, and the enemy goes before her, lands those debuffs, we get some benefit because that just ensures that we deal that additional true damage. But it's not all downsides if we don't have that turn order, if we don't get those conditions, because then we get the cooldown reduction, which just sets us up to use this ability again sooner. With the second special, Reinforcements have arrived. This is a Zeta and Omicron ability with a cooldown of 4. Deal physical damage to the target, cleanse all Lightside Mandalorian allies, allies, call them to assist twice, dealing 50% less damage, and all gain 3 stacks of Ancestral Resolve, which maxes out at 100 stacks. Now, Ancestral Resolve, plus 2 defense, plus 1 max health. Whenever this character deals true damage, deal additional true damage based on the number of stacks. So here we see the mechanic CG alluded to in the attributes portion. Bo increasing the squad's defensive capabilities, but there is more to that because that true damage based on the number of stacks is huge. It being based on number of stacks means some pretty massive damage potential for Bo Katan in particular. But not just Bo Katan, because Beskar Mando with Whistling Birds also inflicts true damage. The Omicron Grand Arena, light side Mando allies gain an additional 2 stacks of Ancestral Resolve, and if another light side Mando ally wasn't able to assist, they instead gain a bonus turn. And that means that if they were stunned or under fear, they will take their turn, the stun or fear will expire, and they will be back into the field of play sooner. Now, considering the function and impact of Ancestral Resolve, that's the more important part of the kit. And it does seem like it's going to be valuable, but I would actually wait on this Omicron. There's a few things to consider. One, this is a cooldown of 4. That means we're not actually going to use this ability all that often. Now, the other portion is Ancestral Resolve from the unique and the leadership ability. It seems like we're going to be able to get stacks of Ancestral Resolve fairly quickly, so the impact of this Omicron may not actually be needed all that much. So I would wait till we do some testing, feel it out, and then make a decision about whether or not we should be placing this Omicron on, if it's going to make enough of a difference for it to be worth using one of those rare resource materials. The unique ability for Mandalore, this is an Omicron ability, and I have a lot to say about this ability, so this might take us a little bit of time. The true damage Mando Bo deals from Ancestral Resolve is tripled. This damage is then doubled against enemies with bonus protection. So when I first read this, I gave an expletive response. The amount of true damage going on in this kit is huge, and in particular with this unique ability. Now, a reminder on true damage, because it's pretty important to this kit, it ignores defense and it can't crit. So we will be modding for offense here. There's no need to be looking at crit damage or crit chance mods. Now, the next part worth highlighting is Bo's doubled damage against enemies with bonus protection. Since we already know she's going to be a GL level counter, we can start narrowing down which GLs she is going to be able to counter based on these mechanics, which puts a target on Jabba, JMK, and Rey in particular. If all allies are light side Mandalorians, Bo takes reduced damage from percent health damage effects and recovers 50% health whenever an ally is defeated for the first time, excluding summoned allies. With the percent health mechanics, we can see she should be strong up against damage over times and thermal detonators. Both work with percent health, which gives us another data point against Jabba, and it adds Lord Vader to the list of possible GL counters. Now, the health recovery, that's nice, where even when things might look like they are going poorly, you get something in return that evens the board a little. This next portion, Bo gains 50% defense, stacking to a max of 200 for each debuff that is on her, and an additional 200% defense stacking for each other light side Mando ally that is alive. So this debuff mechanic screams dark side GL counter. So Jabba and Lord Vader have another mark against them. With the Omicron portion of the ability, Grand Arena, immune to daze. If at the battle start all allies were light side Mandos, Bo ignores taunt effects, and whenever an ally is defeated for the first time, she gains 20% of their max health and offense. So this is an important Omicron. Definitely not skipping this one, but this is probably the second one you place, not the first. Daze says Lord Vader watch out. Ignoring taunt means Bo can go after Maul or Bosch, eliminating critical characters from those GL squads, and adding gaining max health and offense from lost allies has some gigantic potential, and it says pay attention to your allies' mods. Make sure they have plenty of health and offense to grant over to Bo when they die off. The leadership ability, Way of of Mand'alor. This is a Zeta and Omicron ability. Light side Mando allies gain 40% defense, max health, and offense. Light side Mando allies gain 5% defense, stacking to a max of 30% for each debuff on them. The first portion here helps elevate the Mandos to being able to take on endgame content. It's an equalizer to make sure they don't get wiped out. While the debuff mechanic, that should make them far more effective to weathering characters like Lord Vader's damage over times, or other debuff heavy squads like Inquisitors. We could see some sort of third sister counter here as well. Probably not how we're going to want to use her though. Now this next portion here is critical, so pay attention to this more than anything else. This is Ancestral Resolve, how this works, and when you pair it with the unique ability and how that interacts between true damage and Ancestral Resolve, we start to see the pieces falling into place here. Whenever a light side Mando ally deals true damage, dispels a debuff, or resists a debuff, they gain 1 stack of Ancestral Resolve until the end of counter. So this is great because it means Ancestral Resolve is going to be stacking very consistently, particularly when Bo is taking her turn. Tenacity up from old Bo increases the chance of resisting debuffs. Bam has increased tenacity himself. Old Bo and Bam are also going to add more stacks through their cleanse abilities, and the true damage inflicted by Bam's Whistling Birds is going to be a major mechanic in gaining fast stacks of resolve because it's an AoE ability. So we're probably going to be incentivized to want to use Whistling Birds to get into that stance first turn, because we don't really care about the damage he's inflicting at that point. What we care about is that it's an AoE ability, it's going to hit everybody, we're going to boost up those stacks of Ancestral Resolve, and we'll worry about doing damage later, because the Ancestral Resolve is going to very quickly boost up the defense of this squad and then start compounding on the offense as we do these attacks later into the battle. What we are seeing with this portion of the leadership ability is that gaining a bunch of stacks of Ancestral Resolve shouldn't be a major issue because we have so many ways to do it, and it should happen on its own over the course of the battle, making the squad much more of a threat. The next portion, whenever an ally attacks an enemy inflicted with Armor Shred, all light side Mando tank allies taunt. Now, key part to remember here is Paz Vizsla's kit. Every time Paz gains taunt, he dispels it and gains 2 stacks of resilient defense instead, which increases his critical avoidance and defense per stat. But it also means he will be getting resilient defense stacks much more quickly, and when he loses those stacks of resilient defense, it feeds into his heat and overheat mechanics, with the end result being that we can use his second special at max stacks of overheat, where it does the most damage, much more consistently with much less effort. The only thing here is to spread the armor shreds around to increase the chances of this happening, and to prioritize targeting the characters with armor shred to make sure these mechanics are in play. Now, the Omicron portion of the leadership ability, a Grand Arena Ami, light side Mando allies gain 50% mastery, max health, and 30 speed. This is the type of thing that we only see on high quality characters, particularly the gaining additional mastery. Next portion, at the encounter start, light side Mando tank allies taunt, which again equals resilient defense, feeds into the heat and overheat mechanics of Paz Vizsla. If there are other active enemies excluding summons, the first light side Mando ally that is defeated each battle is revived, recovers 50% health and protection. And this portion of this Omicron feeds right back into the unique ability, because with the unique, the first time an ally is defeated, Bo gains those max health and offense. And now we get that character back. And we get that character back with health and protection, and now we have a supercharged Bo with a full squad. Now, the last portion of this leadership Omicron, this is the most important part. Gain 1 additional stack of Ancestral Resolve whenever a light side Mando ally deals true damage, cleanses, or resisted debuff. Same triggers, we're just getting an additional stack for 2 total stacks of Ancestral Resolve based on those triggers. This Ami is mandatory, and it's the first one you place. Mastery mechanics alone are about taking on a GL. I doubt any GL counter can even be entertained without this Omicron being placed, and we're going to want to mod this squad for health and and offense. There's already reason to do so, but this just cements it because of those ancestral resolve mechanics. And it's going to be a doubling impact here. It means with this Omicron, having the time it takes to get to the massive impacts of ancestral resolve on defense and onto offense. You won't even see me test this squad in Grand Arena without this Omicron. This is a day one Ami for me on this character. Second Ami on the unique ability, I would put that one on early, but if you are short on Amis, maybe it can wait. That's special Omicron. I'm not even going to consider that one, and I'm going to try and avoid placing it if at all possible. And after testing, if I think it's important, then I'll consider it. But this Ami first. We're going to wrap this one up right here. We got to start preparing for the holidays. We got another week of Grand Arena to do. I got more videos to edit and cut. But let me know about when you would like to see that Darth Bane kit reveal and analysis. I might do it while I'm traveling during the holiday week, or I might leave it for the second month of Conquest. But I'm also going to really listen to your guys' feedback on when that interests you. I know there's probably a lot more excitement right now rather than later, but I still like the flexibility on some of these Conquest characters to not rush them out like I am with this one. But thank you for watching. Be excellent to each other, everybody. This is Still Plays Galaxy of Heroes.